Alright, so now in this video we will be discussing about the solution part of what we exactly discussed in the first part of this video. If you're new in this video, just go and check out what the problem exactly was. To just give you the overview of the problem, we were developing some unstop kind of a app or some competition based web app which brought in multiple problems to our solution because we were not aware of some of the things initially, which we are right now. And we would be now looking on to how to optimize this problem and how to get out the best solution out of it. So the first thing I would love you to understand here is that no solution is 100% perfect. Okay, uh, because you always have some cost issues, you have some economics issues. There are always some trade-offs which you need to always consider, because no company or no organization, even Google and Microsoft, have some trade-offs in their platforms which they are very well aware about, but they very much respect that thing and they keep on developing the platform. And that's the reason why you should first be focusing on the functional aspect of your project or your application, and then moving on to the scalability and reliability part, because first you need to make your stuff working. Okay, so now before we start, I would just like you to introduce to a new concept of inbound and outbound traffic. So inbound is basically whenever you have a VPS or a virtual server, or let's say a very in a layman language, if you have a laptop, if you're running on a local host, so whatever is running on your local host from one port to other can be termed as a inbound traffic. So if you have a virtual private server, or let's take an example of the entire web. Okay, so let's say now you have this entire internet setting. These comprise of all the computers, and you have your server or your VPS setting here. It might, so let's suppose this is your cluster. Inside this cluster you have few of your instances running. Let's make some replicas out of it if you are a Kubernetes fan. Okay, so whatever is inside this, or whatever the data communication happens between the same instances, is termed as the inbound traffic. Now let's start with our use case. Okay, for sake of simplicity, I'm taking it to be just a.com to be our website, or let's take it to be website.com. Okay, so this is our website, which is okay. So this is our website.com, and we have a subdomain which is, let's say, sub.website.com. So we have these two domains here. Okay, so this is our entire cluster, which is website.com. Till now we were sticking to this particular uh, architecture, right? So now we are moving on to some simpler architecture, or what I would do in the upcoming seasons of this website, or in the next version of this website, would be the same thing. This is the entire internet. This is our cluster, I would say. I would not be discussing about horizontal scaling Kubernetes. If you want to do that, Render is offering you free, not free, but it is offering you the scalability as a service also, so you can check out there also. So yeah, coming to the solution part, so we had next app running on a VPS, different VPS. We have my API running on a different VPS. Let's take it to be, I'm not sure if I'm the same port. Let's take it to be port 4200, and let's take this Express to be running on port let's say 3000. It can change. Okay, I'm just taking an arbitrary number. Uh, and now what we do is basically I've exposed this particular port to the internet and 4200 to the internet. Now let's now take on a very basic level of understanding that how we would start to develop a solution now. So we have these four broad concepts. I would just club this into the same, so I'm deleting this part of the service because I've included the same service in the Express app now. So yeah, so I'm guess you're now comfortable with inbound traffic, and when I say outbound traffic, it is basically from your domain to any other domain. That is outbound traffic. Okay. I would just also, if you know something about CORS, it's well and good. If you don't know, just go out and just check out what CORS is. So CORS is basically cross-origin access. It basically is a browser protocol which would not allow you as a user or as a domain to query any other domain explicitly or directly. There are means to even do that also, but this is to basically avoid or minimize the outbound traffic, which I'm doing right now. So right now I have implemented a course policy open to my API, which is not advisable to any API of such a scale to do. uh, Obviously these are the mistakes which I would rectify in the upcoming versions of the app. But yeah, so you got to know that CORS is something kind of a protocol which you need to follow, wherein you should not expose your API or your domain uh, to the public directly to access it. It needs to be through a proxy, or it needs to be through a inbound traffic. So what proxies, that's out of the scope of this project right now. We will not dive into that aspect of the part. But yeah, starting now, so I guess I would just introduce any terms if I feel that you need to know. Yeah, starting the solution right now. So I would just start with a single server now. Let's suppose this to be my cluster and this to be my instance. I would just bring it down here to just expand and start discussion about it. Okay, so I have my next app running on 4200. I have my core app running on 3000. Okay, so what I would do is, first of all, take this app, or take this GitHub repository and install it into this particular virtual machine. So if you don't know, we can also access your uh, virtual machine through a shell. Okay, if this shell is open here, so this is my shell open here. Obviously, so this is my ID and all that. For this you need to have a personal access token. You can also do it from your local terminal also, but if you run few commands and get to know that, then all these things you would get. So you can see we have all the files here. My, if you want to see what all uh, yeah, so these are the dependencies which I'm using. There can be multiple of them, right? So you can pretty much do anything from here, just as a terminal which you have onto your own machine. You can use the terminal to basically install all the dependencies, the GitHub repositories, and all these things which anything you want to on a very kernel level also. Okay, so yeah, I would just first start with installing the same GitHub repository. Then I would install this particular Express in the same instance which I have. I can do it right now as well, but yeah, there are some more optimizations which need to do so. Okay, so yeah, this is about the thing which I have done, and I would also would love to talk about why I'm not doing it right now. And this is again one of my shortcomings which I did, which also has a very not small, I would say a very easy fix, that is environment variables. In industries we use something called as vault for this. I guess we should not talk about that. It would make this video very long and out of the scope. But yeah, I can talk about this in some other part of the video also. Okay. So yeah, I would just first bring all these both of the instances in the same uh, server instance, the both of them in the same server instance, and then I have this running onto the port 4200 and this running on the port 3000. So I would only allow my next AP on my next app to query my Express app. Okay, so my Express app would no longer need this CORS thing. Okay, why? Because I'm now only using the inbound traffic. uh, with the same thing, I would then like to serve my static files also through the same instance. uh, these usually run on port 8080. So yeah, these ports and all these you should learn, or you get in handy when you have worked with this in long terms. But yeah, this is what the entire system would now look like. Okay, and this would also again query the internal Express app. So this is the entire thing. And what you would do is, let's suppose this is running on port 8080. Sorry, I'm sorry. So this is running on port 8080. and we would expose only these two ports to the internet. Okay, now this is our let's say my entire server as a whole, and this can be scaled up, scaled down. That part we can talk in some later part of these videos. But yeah, this would be the entire cluster. What I would do, this traffic completely right now is outbound because I'm serving it from one domain to other. This is completely outbound. This is increasing my cost with even lesser traffic. So even if I'm not utilizing that much, but it increases my cost. So I'm already at least uh, using 3x costs of what exactly I personally need to do. This also you can't estimate blindly. You have to go there, spend hours researching, spend hours looking through your code, and then you would get to know, okay, bhai, this was this exact thing which I missed out. Okay, so again, this part is done. Now I have a server wherein I have two ports which are exposed to the internet, wherein you can give the end users the liberty to access. Okay, so you can also have some access controls, that who could access, from which IP you could access. All these things come under computer networks, and these are way advanced or out of scope of this video. We can talk about it in later half if you want to. So yeah, this is about the server right now. What next? Now let's suppose my IP is something like 192.345.123.2 anything. Okay, this is my IP of the server. Okay, this IP I have bought it or rented out from my service provider, and for this, with a specific port 4200, if I put it on the internet, I would now get the exact next app. And if I change this port to 8080, the static files would be served. To serve static files also, you need some different technological or tech stack based changes or some tweaks here and there, but yeah, that's more or less doable. So now we have two ports corresponded to IP which are now publicly exposed. My inbound traffic is less. I don't have to have multiple instances. A single instance, I can make a Docker image out of it. I can scale it out, scale it in anytime I want to. We are perfectly ready now. What next comes is the DNS configuration. With this, what I'm going to do is reduce my costs to half directly by reducing the number of live instances to one, and my hosting of static provider also reduces now, or it's no, so I have to only pay for the domain and the server part which I have right now. This would increase the resource usage which I have right now on board, and would avoid any wastage of resources. Now comes the second part. So if you're not aware, before doing all these things, just start with computer networks. Computer networks, if you want to, you can go with DBMS. uh, this would make you more aware of what different processes looks like, if especially if you're working with SQL databases. And if you want very enthusiastic, go for operating system. So I've seen people or students skipping these three subjects, uh, but I personally feel that these subjects are more important rather than DSA. Okay, I am a dev guy, so I can be wrong in your case. Obviously it's completely subjective to what you have to learn, but if you want to do this kind of jobs, you need to learn these basic concepts, and it needs to be engraved in your mind completely. Okay, this part is done. Now what you have to do is go for a DNS configuration server. So what is DNS? I've talked about it in the past video. So DNS basically routes your domain requests to the particular IPs which you have. So I have this and this, right? So website.com is okay. So I have two domains here. First is my website.com, and my second is the sub.website.com. Okay, what you have to do, so there are something called as AAA records, A records, and all these things. Just go and Google all those things, how to do that. What DNS basically doing is basically querying all this, whatever comes to this particular website.com DNS is basically being queried to the respective ports which I have. So it basically sits on top of your server IP, because obviously as a user you can't always put this. So DNS comes to rescue and do this. So there are cachings and all those things implemented here and there. So this is the entire optimizations which I would propose to do. Quite simple if you know the basics. Uh, I knew the basics, but what I lacked was experience. Okay, there are multiple more optimizations to it. Yeah, another thing which I wanted to talk was why I'm not doing it right now. So another very important or blunder which I did was to hard code the API request. Now let's suppose I have a let's say function in my next app, maybe something called as get users. Okay, and it introduces you a callback which let's suppose I am having website.com/get users. Okay, so what I have did is I have hard coded this value everywhere I am querying. What instead would have I had to do was to basically have this as a dynamic variable. Maybe if you don't know process dot, I'm not just don't go into the coding part. So process dot environment dot maybe domain, and this can be changed. So what we do in industries is we not even save this particular thing in the file or .env. We bring it from a dynamic file called as something called as vault. uh, if you want to research about that, you can go out and research that particular part of the project also. But this is the particular thing which is giving me the hurdles to basically change this complete architecture, because in production I can do this. If I even do this and there is a lag of maybe 10 minutes or so, it would reduce the user experience, and it is not very much of importance to us right now, because uh, for me user experience is way more important than what costs you incur. Obviously it's up to the company or organization or developer what they personally prefer, but this was the entire working, the problem which I had, how I would tackle it or how you should tackle it or the things you should know. I have bombarded you with multiple keywords which I personally feel that you should go out there and check forward to learn and explore these things. So yeah, if you're here till now, thanks a lot. If I personally feel that you have learned a lot of more things of why do we even need uh, these subjects in first place, and how complex these things go and how interesting these things go. Okay, I personally that I have covered each part of the server optimizations which I have did. So yeah, I personally feel that you should go out and do some really live production stuff to learn these type of things and to build products at scale. So thanks a lot, guys. If you have any doubts, you can obviously text me, comment me, whatever you want to.